Hey friends, it is a homesteading day here. It's been a while since I've been on video. We've been keeping busy. I'll explain in a different video, but today I just wanted to take you along. I'm doing two things today. I am making beef stock, so I'm just making broth. That's what it is. I couldn't think of the word. And I'm making tallow as well. A while back, like I'm talking while back, the last time we had a cow butchered, we asked for the bones so that I could make stock and asked for tallow so that I could render it down. So the beef fat to render down into tallow. I just hadn't gotten to it, so we went to Costco yesterday and came home and we were stocking the freezer downstairs, the deep freezer, and there were all these boxes of things that I need to deal with. So we are starting that process today. So I wanted to show you how I'm doing that. So I have the oven preheating to 350. These are just a little over 3 pounds of bones, and they have marrow in them. So these are going to get popped into the oven. It'll help thaw them out because they are still a little bit frozen, but also we are going to roast them so that you get a deeper flavor. So they're going to pop in the oven just so we get a little tiny bit of browning on the bone. And then in here in my big roaster that Buck got me is all this fat. Now ideally it would be a lot better to break this down into smaller chunks. I just didn't have the time, and it's really frozen, so you can put it through a food processor to like grind it up, but this will work. It's just going to take more time for it to break down. So I'm going to stick the lid on there, and then we're going to put it on low. So this is over here is keep warm, so we're going to put it like on the lowest setting. You do not want to burn it, so we're going to let that start to warm up, and I'm going to check it frequently. I have a big wooden spoon here that I'm going to use to stir it around. So we are just going to let that sit, and I will show you the process. Okay, so these guys were in for about 15 minutes. You can see the browning. That's exactly what we're looking for. We don't want it any more than just this. You can see some of the marrow in there is working. Now I put these again in for 15 minutes, but they were also had a little bit of, they were still frozen. So it might take less time. Just keep your eye on it, but that was at 350 in there. All right, so we have our big stock pot here. Don't mind the mess. I'm just not cleaning up from dealing with breaking the bones apart until after everything's done. So we are just gonna put our bones directly into the pot. They are hot, just be careful with your fingers. We're just gonna throw all these bones into the stock pot. All right, these are just about 4. Some of them are a little bit smaller. You can literally just play with the amounts of all of this, but they were organic. Carrots, I just coarsely chopped them. We're not going thin with them because we're gonna have to strain all this back out. But I washed them, but do not peel them. You want, ooh, focus. You want the nutrients from the skin. So just wash them up. Like I said, they are organic, so I'm less worried about that. And we are just going to toss them. We are struggling with the focus today. And more than one. So they're in there with the bones now. All right, same thing here. This was some organic celery. This was 2 stalks of celery, just chopped up coarsely. And again, mess around with what you like for depth of flavor and all of that stuff. So that is right. Next we have, I just had some of these white pearl onions that I needed to use up anyways. You can just use a regular onion. I just chopped them in half to open up the flavor. Okay, here's the magical part. If you grew things yourself and you know exactly what's in them, or if you're buying them organic, you can leave the skins on. Like, just leave them on. Dice them up. I don't know how many are there. I just took a bunch. And in they go. Now, I do like the little white pearl onions because I think that they have a higher flavor profile than a regular onion, but your preference. Can you ever have too much garlic? Absolutely not. I'm pretty sure the recipe calls for like 6 cloves. I just did like 1 large head. There were more than 6 here. Again, just diced them up in half. Open that up and get in there. raw and unfiltered apple cider vinegar. This is 3 tablespoons. It's not 1/4 of a cup. You can see it's a little bit less than that. 3 tablespoons into the pot. All right, we have some dried rosemary from our dried rosemary. Whoa, that was a lot. I'm just gonna take some out. And I know that sounds gross, but it's gonna go into the next batch anyways, so I don't really care if it touched the bones. So, you don't need that much rosemary, but I like rosemary, so I'm good with it. So rosemary is in there. This is our Redmond's real salt. You want a tablespoon of a fine sea salt, non-iodized. I do not like oregano as much as I like rosemary, so we used a measure. That was a tablespoon. You can do up to 2. I don't have any time of my own, so literally don't have time either, but yeah, that was a bad joke. And there it goes. That was just some brown time. All right, we got 10 peppercorns going in there, and 1, 2, and 3 bay leaves. All right, you can see I added some water. This is the last quart, so you want to put like anywhere from like 4 to 6 quarts of water in here. This was 6 for me just because I did have a little bit of extra other stuff in there. And then I'm gonna grab a spoon, a wooden spoon, and we're just gonna stir that all together. Now the bones are in there, so I'm gonna make it a little hard, but we're gonna do it. All right. Now what we're gonna do is put the lid on it, but we're just gonna let it sit in here for about 30 minutes. So we're just sitting it, nothing's turned on, just let it chill in here. Now that was cool water. You do not wanna put hot water in here. It is going to be cold water. After 30 minutes, we're gonna turn the burner off. All right, a half hour is up, and I forgot to show you, because I forgot to video it. I had a shallot here, that I forgot to throw in earlier. So I just threw that in while it was sitting, diced it up the same as everything else. So we've been sitting here for a half hour, and now we are going to start. We're gonna put this on high just until we start bubbly. And then we're gonna turn it down to a simmer, and it's gonna sit here for a really long time. So we're gonna pop this lid back on and let it do its thing. All right, we're checking in, and we are bubbling. So now what we're going to do, that's going pretty good. It smells amazing, guys. Like, I wish you could just smell it. It smells like I'm cooking like a full dinner. I'm hungry. Okay, so we're gonna give her a good stir. And then we're just gonna turn the heat down. I'm gonna turn it to about middle right now and see how she does with that. But really, we are just gonna let this do its thing for like at least 8 hours, if not longer. And we'll go from there. Okay, so I turned the heat up a little bit to 250, and we've been cooking for a while. I just got carried down for a nap, which means I kind of fell asleep for a few minutes. So anyways, we're back. So you can see this looks a lot different than when we first started. You can see the liquid coming off, which is exactly what we want. And if we stir it around, right, get to some here so you can see all that liquid in the bottom. Once we strain and filter, that's what's gonna be the tallow. So we're just gonna let this continue on its way and stir it a good bit. All right, I'm gonna pull it back on and keep it going. So we have been cooking all day. We are now gonna just strain it out, strain it over top of a bowl that you have a lid to, because you are gonna put it in the fridge. So just strain it out, push down, make sure you're getting as much juice as you possibly can get out. We are gonna let this cool in the fridge, probably for a couple days, just because I have to work. All right, so this is after all day. You can see how much it reduced down, and there is a lot of liquid in here. Could have I let it sit longer and reduce more? Probably, but do I have a whole box of fat downstairs? Yes. So we're just gonna deal with it. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna strain it. So I have this, and we're gonna do a first strain through this, and then we're gonna strain it through a cheesecloth afterwards, just because this is gonna be a lot easier. All right, so this is what we have left, are like the little impurities there that would have come through the strainer anyway, so we're just gonna let them be. Okay, it is early in the morning, but I wanted to show you quick. This had a time to cool, so it went to this white color, which means we did a good job. You can see in here, you can kind of see what the consistency is going to look like. There. Typically, your meat breed of cow will give you a whiter color, and if you had done rendering tallow from a dairy breed, it will be a more yellow color. Doesn't make a difference, just is what it is. Doesn't really make any taste difference. But so this is ready. We're gonna store it in the fridge. You don't have to. It'll probably sit up here till tonight because I'm not running it downstairs this morning before we get ready for work. But you can leave it out, but we are going to store it in the fridge. You can also store it in the freezer too, but it will last in the fridge for well over a year. So happy tallow making. Okay, so after several days in the fridge, you can let it sit for a couple hours or several days, but I had to work really long days, so you can see this hard layer here. We are just gonna use our spoon and skim off that hard layer of fat that dried at the top. We are not gonna need that for anything. We're just gonna get rid of it. You can see the gel underneath there is our broth that we are gonna bring back up to heat to put in our canning jars, but the gel like that means we did get the marrow to extract from the bones, which is awesome. But we're just going to get all that layer of fat off first. And like I said, you can do this after a couple hours of it cooling, but it took several days just because I was at work for 3 really long days. So here we are. It's like jello. So now we're just gonna pour that back into our ginormous stock pot here, and we are gonna heat it up. So I just turned it on high. It's not gonna take long for it to come back to a liquid form. You can see here, and as that's happening, we are also gonna get our canning jars hot. It only took 3 jars in total, but here we are with a full canner because I wasn't sure how many it was going to come out to. Put some water in there. You got to put them in the jar so they don't float around, but and we're going to turn that on, and then once they are hot and ready and your broth has come up to a boil, we'll take them out, put our filler or our funnel in there, and then we're going to take and ladle out our broth into the hot jars. I also have rings going in the back of the stove for on top of there, not rings, the lids. So we want some hot lids so that you get that good seal. So after you fill up your quart size jars, I'm doing quarts, not pints. If you're doing pints, you're gonna cook for 20 minutes. If we're doing quarts, we're cooking for 25. So after we get all of our stuff filled up, we are gonna put our lids on and tighten the rim to fingertip tight, and then we're gonna put it back into the hot water that is in the canner. I'm taking the empty jars out of the canner at that time so that they're not in there doing a thing. So I'll use them because I already did start another batch while this was in our canner. All right, so we are gonna let it come up and be steaming for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes of pure stream of steam, we are gonna put the weight on it at 10 pounds for 25 minutes for our quart size jars. And then we are going to turn the heat off after 25 minutes, let it come down to 0 pressure and take that weight off. And then we're just gonna open it up. Once your jars are out, we're just gonna let them cool for 24 hours so that they have time to seal. Then we're gonna take those rings off and they're good to go. Here's how you make stock.